When I think back on all the fears when I was pregnant, all of them dismissed except for one. The only test the state mandated was genetic. Looking for that extra chromosome.
Hello, and welcome to the If We Knew Then podcast. I'm Steven Socks,
And I'm Lori Socks.
and today's episode focuses on a sometimes challenging aspect of parenting a child with really any disability, the emotional part of dealing with those yearly assessments, IEPs, and evaluations that always seem to happen right around our child's birthday celebration. We'll discuss how we managed these stresses early on and maybe how we would have done some things differently. A good way to facilitate this is with an "if we knew then" statement.
If we knew then, we would say, don't worry. Because honestly, what I've always told you is worrying doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
And it's so hard not to worry. But sometimes I'll just, we do a lot of meditation and to keep in the moment and to just remember what is actually real in this moment. So worrying doesn't change anything. And that may sound stupid because sometimes it sounds stupid to say it. But worrying really doesn't change.
Well, a lot of things kind of feel stupid sometimes because my past experiences put me in a place where I might have put Liam in a box. I remember when Liam was born, we looked at each other and when we found out Liam had Down syndrome, we looked at each other and one of the first things we said was, we're not going to give up on this kid.
Mm.
We are not going to give up on him. And one of the early things that he was not able to do was he was not able to latch on and breastfeed.
Well, he couldn't nurse because when Liam was born, he was 2 pounds. How many ounces? And then he peed and he lost.
I think it was like 215 or something.
Yeah, and his head, he was smaller than when we bought him a Groot. Don't tell him it's a surprise. Bought him a Groot stuffed animal this birthday. But we bought him that, and we both looked at it and said, this is how small he was when he was born. Right. He was about that size.
We said we weren't going to give up on him, and I remember just one of the things we would do is you would pump, and
every 2 hours
we'd feed him through his feeding
for
tube.
an entire year.
Mm-hmm. And a year later, he's at home.
Was it about a year?
I think it was about a year.
It was about a year.
He was
home.
I was still obviously not eating from a
I want to say
anymore.
this to moms. I was still pumping.
That's true.
Every 3 hours.
It's a big deal.
Every day.
Oh.
At a year. I gave it 1 year. I said I'm going to that was my goal, 1 year. So
little did you know, Liam bumped his head and
he was crying,
and you hugged him, and he just naturally
latched on,
began to, and it was such a surprise. I remember you almost putting your hands up like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I flashed back almost a year before and said,
we said we weren't going to give up, and we'd given up on him nursing. We had given up on him nursing.
We hadn't even tried it again. And then I said, well, he's a year old, but still, let this bond happen. Like,
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And he showed us he's going to get it.
Yeah.
In his time.
Be patient. And don't give up.
He walked about
But
2
if you do
years
give
old.
up, don't judge yourself.
That's true.
Because he's still going to get it. The thing is even if you give up, he's not going to give up. She's not going to give up. If the foundation is there, if the opportunity is there. And that was the thing, is we may have given up.
I think on the first thing we said we weren't going to. I think that was the idea I had in my head. I mean, when he was 1, it kind of dawned on me, and I said, so.
I did it.
He did it, and
I did it. I gave up.
I gave up, right. Mm-hmm.
But I think just now, for the first time ever, with that story, because we've thought about it so many times over the last 9 years, is the truth that we may have given up, but he didn't. And so take that into not being so hard on yourself. If you do, you're human and you're on this journey and you're trying to figure it out and you're always doing your best. Don't be so hard on yourself. I would say don't be so hard, because I think that any time, whether it be like in an IEP or even last year on his birthday where he doesn't ask for much and it was just right after Christmas, and I said, we took him to Disneyland and we didn't buy a lot of things. But I remember when he opened the few things that we got, he was so excited. I was like, why didn't I buy things to open? And I was so hard on myself. I felt so sad. Was it because he doesn't want things? I second guessed myself and my motives and why I did that. And I felt so sad. I remember I felt so sad, and I judged myself so hard as to had I become what I fight against. And I would say from that, don't give up. Remember, it's not to be so hard on you. Let it be a journey. Let it be, I'm going to quote the Beatles, let it be. And in the heart of choosing your focus in these annual things that IEPs and other tests and annual doctors and all of those things that you have to experience, we get to choose what we focus on. And we do have to do some hard things, and we do have to experience things that maybe we wouldn't have fathomed 10 years ago. And we have to be tougher, but we are tougher than we know, and smarter and stronger and more compassionate and
Patient.
And I'm talking about with the school system. I'm not talking about with my son. I'm talking about with that journey. We have to be compassionate, and we have to be patient, and we have to be peaceful warriors, and we have to educate ourselves, and we have to be stronger than we want to be sometimes, because I don't always want to be so damn strong. And then you get to choose what you focus on, because on the flip side, just having that child, whether it be my son or my daughter, the celebration of them, let that be your focus. It wasn't always. It wasn't really until the last couple of years that his birthday was there was the milestones, and he didn't have the same milestones, and he's 3, he's so small, and
even birthday gifts. Remember,
he doesn't
every birthday
walk.
gift you buy the kid had to have some kind of.
Every
this
gift.
is me too. Every gift had to be. That's good
from us.
Right.
Every gift was like, that would be great for his pincer grasp, and that's good for cognitive development.
The kid couldn't just have a toy.
No toy. No, not just
for
a toy
fun.
to play.
It was
and then,
a toy that.
And then when we received gifts, they were always kind of the low bar of getting a gift made for an infant when he was 4, and that breaks your heart. But no, people are doing their best.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to do those yearly things. You have to do the IEP. You have to do the doctor's visits. You have to do the forms that you fill out. You have to do, depending on where you live. I don't know if everybody has regional center. You have to do your regional center. You have to do all of these things. Do them. Let them have their place. Let them have their time. Etch out a little bit of time, however much, to do it. And then let your focus be the celebration. And you would say, don't worry. Trust. Know that it is going to be okay.
Yeah, and he's a blast. I mean, he's awesome, and Sophia's awesome, and they're great together. We're very lucky that they're both very happy, and we're happy. Liam definitely knows he has friends, likes himself. He looks himself in the mirror and is proud of himself. It's fears that I have. Remember, I've discussed my thoughts on I have more concerns for my typical child, Sophia, because life's pretty tough, and there are no guarantees, and that she'll always be happy with herself. I hope she is. I hope she.
There's no guarantee Liam will always be happy with himself, and hopefully
no,
he'll.
But I don't worry about it as much.
No,
he really just has a confidence in himself, and he's proud of himself. He has friends.
But he has all the emotions. I mean,
he has emotions, but he's the one that will, when one of us is sad, he
puts his arm on our shoulder and
yes.
says, "Smile."
He comforts. He says, "Smile," and he'll feel sad too.
He's very empathetic.
Yes, Sophia does it too. I'm not,
Right.
she lifts you up too. I'm just.
But I think we're talking about if we knew then, we'd say, trust. You're a parent, and you know what you're doing, and you're doing your best. And if you're doing, as Andy Garcia said in Mamma Mia too, I do my best. It is all that I have. You're doing your best, and that's all you can do. And they're going to know they're loved. That's the most important thing. And whatever your foundation that you're giving them that foundation. And you're opening doors for them. And you are their voice. And don't don't get mad at the way things are. I think it's that we change the way things are. Let that anger fuel your actions to make a change and a difference, and be a voice, and let your voice be heard. And then we make a difference, small baby steps along the way. So I would say,
Do your animal things and then go back to celebrating.
yeah, do what you have to do and just enjoy the celebration. Make sure that you eat that cake. You blow out those candles and you make that wish and you sing that song. However you celebrate, you celebrate. Don't get caught up in what it should be.
Which can happen because I think it can, even with a typical child, but we've kind of gone back and forth on this a little bit, but I feel like as a parent with a child with Down syndrome, it's even magnified.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm saying magnified subconscious, or not, inwardly.
Yeah.
I'm magnifying it.
Why isn't he eating?
I'm double thinking.
Why isn't he lifting that up? How come he can't put that coin in the pig?
You look at your...
You were talking about that game?
Yes.
I hated that.
But you look at your 2-year-old son and you look at another 2-year-old that's typical. And
Why isn't he walking? Yeah.
And even more than I did with Sophia.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I did it with Sophia.
Because other people compare.
And I don't think it's... And you
they
would
tell
think
you.
a second child, I wouldn't do it as much.
Right. But I think it's also because society compares and they tell you.
Yeah.
Even in the IEPs.
Right. Well,
Everybody.
every little
Everything.
moment of Liam's natural development as a child
Microscope.
was written down and analyzed and put on. I mean, you have normal charts, but this chart seems to go on forever.
Yeah. If he pushed somebody, it went on a chart.
Kindergarten, first day of kindergarten, he
hugged. They wrote
hugged
it down. It was in the next meeting.
He hugged a child, and then another child came and hugged too, and they all
everybody,
fell
and then
down.
it was a big hug.
And it's like, oh, so we're going to talk to Liam about not hugging so much.
Well, what about the other three people?
Like,
the
wait,
first hug, the
first of
initial
all,
hug was fine.
Kindergarten, can we all hug?
Yeah. We
And
need more
second of all,
hugs in
there
life.
were other kids involved, and they all
when
want
the
to hug.
fifth kid got on the pile to hug Liam.
Let's talk about Liam. Let's
That
talk
was
to
the
Liam when
problem.
he's punching 2 or 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
Not when the hugs are happening. Okay, but anyway, I
But
digress.
you digress. But it is. It's under a microscope, and there. Keep your own chart and put it in perspective. And you know what? When you're at the meeting and they tell you all those things about, well, your child hugged, in the nicest, most polite way, you are their voice, but you have a voice. And if that seems unfair, you can say, all children hug. And
Right. Whatever's good for you, because it's true. There are a lot of different ways to do this. And you have to trust yourself. You have to make the decision and then do it. When Liam came home from the NICU, I was almost adamant. No, I wasn't adamant. I just wrestled with myself. If we're inviting someone over to come meet our new baby, who has spent 2.5 months in the NICU, he's finally home, and we're going to invite some people over. I wrestled with myself. I told you, I said, I need to call these people and tell them Liam has Down syndrome. I mean, I need to tell them, prepare them.
And this was probably one of my good moments.
This is great. I
This
learned
was
a lot.
I'm bringing
Like,
it.
no.
This is like in my pocket. It's good job, Mom.
This is great.
That was a good mom
That was
moment.
a great lesson.
Because I said, if you're going to say that, then you need to also put in the note, and Liam has brown eyes, because it's just as important.
They'll get here and they'll see that he has Down syndrome, or they won't.
Right.
And then they'll know.
And then, like the lady in Pier 1 who just thought he was a mixed baby. And she said, I love mixed babies.
Oh, right.
That was awesome. It was beautiful.
Because it was just me and him.
Yeah.
Really sweet cashier. She looked at Liam, thought he was so adorable, and said, oh, my goodness, I just love mixed babies. And I think she thought he was ethnic. I obviously thought he was ethnic, and I kind of tumbled in my mind of what
That meant.
Yeah, like.
And do you correct her?
No.
Right?
I
No,
didn't.
I'm saying that like that's.
Oh, do
those
I?
Are,
Yes,
These
do
are all
I?
the things that you think.
In a split second, and it was just a nice little smile. She was nice about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was
And I think it's very similar to like this weekend. Sophia had a birthday party she went to, and I had to go back to drop something off, and you and Liam came,
You hadn't mentioned anything.
I hadn't mentioned Down syndrome. I think maybe Sophia has to her friends, but I don't. It wasn't a conversation, and it just was. He was there, just like we didn't. I mean, they may have had a conversation before, but we didn't.
Or after.
We don't have to.
They might have had a conversation after we left.
Yeah, but we didn't have to justify or preemptive or. But we didn't have to do any of that. Just like I didn't tell them Sophia's afraid of dogs, so if you walk to the park, she might get a little scared, which that also happened. Oh. But I didn't, I didn't have to explain. And I think...
And sometime not explaining, you're going to get people that are a bit surprised and taken aback. But
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and it goes by fast.
Yeah.
That little moment is then done.
Good for them.
Good for all of us.
It's good for all of us.
It's good
because I didn't have to explain my child, and I shouldn't have to.
No.
I think that's part of the frustration is I feel like, and if I knew then, I wouldn't spend so much time explaining my child to people. I didn't always, but I think maybe you more so.
I think I wrestled with it more. I mean,
yeah.
I came to you going,
I was
don't
defiant.
know
That was like almost like a defiant. And I think backstory is part of because I was adopted, and so I had a different reality growing up, and I think that's why I was like, Liam doesn't need explanation. Why do I have to explain? Unless you're going to babysit him, and I have to tell you some kind
specifics he needs.
Yeah,
or something.
specific.
Right.
I'm not going to make it feel like he's less than by explaining his existence, because I think that's honestly at the root of everything is that's the at the foundation of the problem with the conversation about Down syndrome is justifying the existence of our child on a certain level. That's the,
right.
That has been the fight. That's the fight for his education, justifying that he should be educated. Why does just because he has Down syndrome that he doesn't deserve an education, or that he should not get a diploma, or that the expectation is so low and the bar is so low, and there's stereotypes that this is exactly what he's going to be in a box that he fits in. And I think that's part of it, and that's what I've learned is that. Now it's just really nice. Like, it doesn't come up in the conversation. I talk about my son, and sometimes I'll talk about, if I'm talking about a specific, and people will be like, oh, you sign with your son? And I just say, yeah.
Yeah.
They can ask why, and then I say the truth. Well, because his expressive language has come in slower than his cognitive and receptive. So we help him to express himself so that people can understand what he's saying with sign language. Now that comes into his IEP, but they use it as a deficit. And instead of saying, oh, your child knows 2 languages, and I'm sorry that your teachers don't know 2 languages, that they can't sign with him, and also that we don't know his language and understand how he's saying and speaking, but instead he gets judged for it. So I think it's just kind of like I wouldn't explain anything about... My husband's going to come pick me up, but he's bald. So just
I knew you were going to pull that.
I wouldn't. He's 6 foot tall. Why does that matter?
Right.
I don't know. I just thought you needed to know that because so you can.
And like we said, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Maybe you feel more comfortable doing that, but there's an option of not doing it.
You don't have to. If that's what you choose, then it's your choice.
We were told, hey, you might want to make a book for kids.
No,
in
we were
kindergarten.
asked to make a book.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Can you make a book explaining
Yes.
what I should say to my child about your child?
Yes. Yeah, so we decided not to discuss with any parents or students in kindergarten, and we decided not to have a book or a sit down with anybody to explain that Liam has Down syndrome and he's going to be in your class.
Now,
Because
here's go ahead. No, go
well,
ahead.
and that's something that could be done. That's something that is actually a popular thing.
It's a very popular thing. Now, I will say what I know then, if I knew then. I would say, don't get so mad at the book. I was mad at the book because people said, can you please make a book? I saw somebody make a book that said explaining Down syndrome and your child and what their limits are and stuff. And I was, and I just got indignant. And I was like, if you make a book telling me how your child's different.
Can we say the book basically would say, hi, if
hi,
it was for
my
Liam,
name's Liam. I have Down syndrome. This is what Down syndrome is. This is the things I can't do.
I can't do. These are some things maybe
I
I
don't
can
know what
do.
he can't do. It was kindergarten.
And here's some pictures of him. And
I got mad. And my answer was, you're not going to, first of all, you can Google Down syndrome and there's all your facts. If you want the definition.
This is when you were asked by a parent.
I was
This
asked
wasn't
by,
asked by the teacher. Or
I
the
was
school.
asked by,
This is a
the
parent
teacher did. The
saying,
teacher,
"How do
he
I
had the best
explain
kindergarten
He
teacher
did.
ever.
How do I explain your child?
To
How do
my
I
child.
explain to my child your child?
How
is
do I
what we were
explain
asked.
my child? How do I explain your child to my child?
Right.
That's what someone said
Which-
to me. Again, now I can go, that parent is doing their best. Again, I make it my responsibility. I could have not been so maybe defensive because I mean, it comes from ignorance. Is actually.
But I felt, you know what I felt, and it hit me was I don't have to tell you about Liam because he's part of our community. I don't know how to tell your child about Liam when he comes with a question. First of all, let the child come to you with a question. Just like I don't know how to tell you.
I told her it wasn't contagious.
Oh, that's true.
It's true.
No, but
I was just mad.
My thoughts were, I don't know how to tell you how to parent. I don't know how to tell you how to explain to your child when you walk to 7-Eleven and you walk by a homeless person asking for money, why you did or did not give that person money or why that person's asking for money. That's not my job to tell you how to explain that to your child, but that's our community. That's life, right? And I don't want to bring the bar down. I'm not comparing Down syndrome to a homeless person.
Wait for that.
But this is something in our society that
Absolutely.
is looked at as being a negative part of society. And how do I explain it? You know,
I don't know how you explain it because I'm not you, and I obviously don't parent like you because I would never ask me that question. I think what I did.
You went on another way where you were like, well, if I make a book about Liam, then you better make a book about why your child has blonde hair and your child has blue eyes.
Tell me why your child is different, which I think is great. I mean, that's what we kind of do for Every Kid Counts. It's like your differences make you who you are, and everybody's different. So I think my actual response is, I will make that book if everybody in the class makes that book.
And the kids don't need it. That's the thing.
The kids don't need it.
The parents want
now,
the book.
I will say, the parents want the book. The parents need the book in some ways, and the book could have helped some parents.
That's true.
I was just at a different spot where I was tired of having to defend my child's existence. And at 5 years old, he was in a class with peers his own age in kindergarten. He started kindergarten at 5, where that's a typical start. Mm-hmm. At that point, I was so tired of fighting and having to defend my son's existence at that school. I was tired. I had to fight to get him in an inclusive classroom. I had to fight to keep him on curriculum when he already knew his colors and all these other things that they were teaching him. And I had to fight for so many things that at that point, that mom didn't know what she was walking into. So I would say if I knew then, I would maybe take a deep breath before I responded. I would probably respond the same way, saying I think it would be good if my son's going to make a book, that everybody make a book, so that way the kids can understand that everybody's different. And then I might have had a friendly conversation with the parent.
And probably doing that would have been easier to just let it go after too.
Yeah, and I think that in kindergarten, as parents, we really didn't have many friends. Because I think we were defensive. I can say that. I know we were defensive because I was tired of I was tired of the comments. I was tired of the questions. I was tired because it came from not a place of, what are you really asking? And honestly, I would have probably had more respect if somebody actually asking what they were really asking instead of the roundabout way of, how do I talk to my child? I don't know how you talk to your child. I don't, and it's not my job, and it's not my place, and I would never assume it to be.
Liam's part of the world. He's part of our community. Every child is, and that explanation comes when there's a question, and the kids didn't question. The kids accept Liam, and especially in kindergarten, they accepted Liam and with no questions.
So I think maybe we should wrap this one
Sure.
up. But what I think, if we knew then, we would trust more, worry less, choose our focus, celebrate the heck out of every day, every birthday, and whatever you want the celebration to be, whether it be every day or every week or whatever, celebrate that, educate ourselves, be their voice, but also Don't be afraid to be your own voice. I'd come from a more compassionate place because I think that having more compassion would have helped me see that I actually am in a place where I can have compassion for them just as they could have compassion for me.
So, let's go celebrate.
I'm ready to celebrate.
And thank you for joining us. Please follow us on Twitter at If We Knew Then Pod, and you can drop us a line on our Facebook page at If We Knew Then Pod, or visit our website, ifweknewthen.com, to send us an email with questions and comments. And you can join our mailing list there and get alerts of future podcast episodes. All these links will be added to this episode's show notes. Thank you again, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode of If We Knew Then.